Welcome to my Boomer Buddies podcast, where we tell it like it was and is. Today, look out, we're in trouble. We've got two dynamic ladies here. First of all, we've got somebody that has known me my whole life, happens to be my mother, Margaret Reed, but everybody calls her Muggs. And we've got the fabulous Tere Walsh here too. And what we want to do today is just have a conversation. We'll talk about what it was like growing up as boomers, and my mom can talk a little bit about what it's like to raise boomers. Five of her six kids were actually baby boomers. So we'll start with this. First of all, mother, mom, Muggs, welcome to my Boomer Buddies podcast. We just took up the star level a few notches.
Hi, Rick.
Hi,
Happy to
Mom.
be here.
We're so glad you are here, and somehow you survived me and the other siblings.
You kind of set the pattern for the rest.
And Tere, you grew up during the boomer era, and I'm sure your mom and dad had some stories and some ways that they raised you. And we'll see if there's any similarities between what mom says and what you say your parents did. Let me start with this. Back in the day, the times of the boomers was post war. I know, Mom, you had a really difficult childhood, but you probably didn't always know it. But looking back, you didn't have much and you made quite a life for yourself. Talk what was like, first of all, growing up then and then becoming a teenage mother.
Oh, that was a long time ago, you know. Growing up, it was fun. I didn't know any better, you know. It was on the farm and everybody was poor. And I went to a one-room school. There were 8 grades and one teacher. We were all friends. We all went to the same church. So the activities were pretty much around school and the church. And I had a lot of cousins. So my cousins were my friends too. We were all in the same boat.
And you were out in the country, basically,
Oh, we
right?
were out in the country. Actually, it was Plymouth, which is now a suburb. It was all farmland and dirt roads and, make your own fun.
Right. And then segue into meeting dad, dating him. Now at 19, you have a baby.
Yes, I met your father. I think maybe I was about 13 years old. He was a couple years older than me. And, we just kind of knew each other. And then at 15, I started dating him. And that was my forever.
Tere, talk about your childhood, where you grew up, what your parents were like, what their background was.
I also am the oldest, Rick. So, we paved the way for the
Absolutely.
others had it a little easier because of us. I grew up in Richfield and Burnsville. My mother had me when she was 20, and that was, the very popular thing then to have. A lot of people had their babies in the late teens and early 20s. I had a great childhood. Eventually I had two little brothers. We played with the kids in the neighborhood. We went outside in the morning. We came home for lunch. And I do remember my mom had to watch her story, her soap opera. So we got to watch half of Casey Jones. And then we go to our friends behind us and watch the other half because their mom didn't watch As the World Turns.
Ah,
But then we'd play outside till dinner, and then we were outside again. And, we played games like Starlight, Moonlight, Red Rover, Kick the Can. Somebody got a new refrigerator in the neighborhood, and we played with that box forever, climbing in it and rolling. And just, we played with whatever, grasshoppers. We played with whatever. We were outside. When the street lights came on, we needed to come home. And now you don't even find street lights in some neighborhoods, but it was a great childhood.
I can relate to that, Tere. Mom, you probably needed a break from us kids. I mean,
Mhm.
what a handful we were. We were like the Brady Bunch. It wasn't a blended family like the Brady Bunch, but three boys, three girls. We were a lot to handle, and I don't know how you did it. You must have been tired until you were 40 years old.
Yeah, a lot of it's a blur, but I had some wonderful times, wonderful memories. You know, Rick, you were the oldest, and I believe you were 8 years old when the youngest one was born. So there wasn't much time between the six of you.
Dad should have left you alone. I mean, my goodness. 8.5, yeah, 8.5 years. Little story about dad. Terry, my dad was one in a million. I mean, he acted like this big, tough, gruff guy, but he was a marshmallow inside. But he goes, "Do you realize that when I was 28, I had 6 kids?" And I just looked at him. That's your fault. And he just kind of gave me a smile. But he was a hardworking dude. He'd go to work every day. He'd come home from work. Terry, I don't know if you can relate, but he came home and we had to, if we were in the house, we had to clear out. We had to give him 15 minutes of just peace and quiet.
What a good
And
idea.
and I know why now that I am older and I've gone through all of that. But Mom, you
Mhm.
witnessed that every day.
Yep.
He needed that time.
I think you kids knew when I would say, I better put some lipstick on, Dad's coming home. You clear out.
Yeah, Terry, he was in the grocery business, so he had physical labor, stocking shelves and managing other employees, dealt with the public every day. He came home, he wanted to turn it off before us
Sure.
kids got into his way.
Did your dad have set hours? I know like people in the grocery business now some of them work different hours. Did he have weekends off and um
Sundays.
Sundays off? Okay, so
Yeah,
six
they weren't
days a
open
week.
on Sundays for most of what I remember him working. He worked Saturdays, right, Mom? And he would
Correct.
have Monday or Tuesday off
Tuesday.
along with Sunday. Yeah,
Mhm.
so
Okay.
and he kept a pristine lawn and we couldn't play on the lawn, but we did. Mom protected us, and you know, Dad's coming home, So we'd get a rake out and try to rake our footprints and
Oh
all that. He
no.
wasn't a mean guy. He just liked to have a
No,
nice yard.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't think dads were really mean, but parents were a lot stricter when we were young compared to when we were parents and compared to parents now. It
Hmm.
just rubs me when someone will say, "Oh, this is my daughter. She's my best friend," and she's like 7. Yeah, we did not grow up that way, and I think having parents that were strict was really a good thing, or mostly dads that were strict. One of the famous lines that a lot of boomers would relate to is, "Wait till your dad gets home."
Uttered many times by Muggs Reed. Many times.
It sure did.
Yeah. Mom, did you find it difficult looking back? Were we difficult kids, or was it just there's so
No,
many of us and you were
no.
dutiful? You took care of the house. You were great. You did everything. Thank you, first of all. But secondly, do you recall any hardships?
Not really. You got up early and you went to bed late and you did your job and I enjoyed it. And and we had some wonderful neighbors
Hmm.
and the neighbor kids. So you had a lot of neighborhood friends. And I think the parents were pretty much like we were, the rules and you know. Uh so I knew if you were at say Frankie's house, I knew that the rules would be the same there as they were at our house, and you abide by them, right? Terry, I thought my name was Mom Come Here. I thought Come Here was my last name because I would hear that all the time. Mom, come here.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. So no matter if they were outside or if I was down in the basement washing clothes and they were upstairs, it was Mom, come here.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Right.
But you were
Mom,
outside all the
mom,
time.
mom.
Kind of like the mom, though. That was pretty good.
Terry, can you relate to having neighborhood parents that they could basically tell you to knock it off and wouldn't get sued? Back in the day, they would look out for you. Did you have that situation?
Well, I was never bad. I never needed to be disciplined. No. Yes, I did have I did have that. That was in both Burnsville and Richfield when I grew up. Yes, the neighbors were like that. We respected the neighbor parents so much. And I'm still friends with a lot of them today, like on Facebook, or I'll see them around town maybe, and you knew you didn't mess with other people's parents, and that was it. And your parents didn't get offended if, Susie's parents sent you home because you were bad, or Susie's parents called and said they had to reprimand you
Mhm.
because you were doing something not right. It took the whole neighborhood, and it made a good growing up avenue for us.
That's a good point. Nobody got offended, and if they did, we didn't know about it, but, the parents would handle it, I'm sure. Yeah, neighborhoods at the beginning, when I say we tell it like it was and is, we're kinda doing that right now. That's how it was for us, My mother, if she had to, in a nice way, tell somebody to behave, they would say, "Yes, Mrs. Reed." I never called Frankie's parents by their first names. I always said Mister and their last name, for example.
Not to interrupt, Rick, but Frankie is the only one that called me Mrs. Reed. So it must have been a mutual.
I called his parents Mr. and Mrs. Zeman, and
Hmm.
yeah, and I don't remember calling anybody else by their first name. It was Mr. Bachman.
Uh-huh.
I think in your case, Mom, some of the kids in our neighborhood were a little older than me, and they
Hmm.
actually became friends with you, and you were a
Yeah.
mentor to them. Terry, she was the one that all the teen girls would come and hang out with, and I'm sure talk about
Awesome.
things that I never heard about. But
After school.
Or wanted to hear about, right?
Yeah.
right. Well, at the end of every show, I or you, Terry, say, "See you around the block." Well,
Hmm.
it's kind of got a double meaning because the neighborhood was an important thing growing up, and they were like another family. And the other meaning of when I say "see you around the block" or you say it is we've been around the block. We know things now through life. You learn through lessons and experiences. So
Yes.
that's why we say that. Mom, do you have any recollections of anybody in the neighborhood that you helped out or you mentored and what it meant to them?
Are you talking about the teenagers or
Yeah, the teenagers, because you were always holding court at the kitchen table.
yeah, after school, yeah. Jennifer. Jennifer. I think I helped her out, you know. Joanne. Joanne, she was your babysitter. She helped raise you guys.
She saw me naked.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Joey, if you're watching this,
She will.
you were nice to me. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. She helped raise you. Um my mother and father-in-law, Terry, they wanted to make sure that I had free time. So quite often when it was Dick's, my husband's night to work, he worked 2 nights a week also
Okay.
besides. They insisted that I go to my brother-in-law's ball games. It was football, basketball, whatever. They insisted that I go with them. And Joey was always the babysitter on those nights. Yeah, I had
Okay.
great in-laws.
Oh, that's good. That's
Hmm.
always
Yeah,
important in a family.
yeah.
Terry, did you have any older friends, parents that you confided in or felt close to?
I had a couple that lived behind me, but it was a huge hill going up, so they kind of overlooked our yard, and they had no children at first, and I used to go up and talk to them quite a bit. That was fun, and I'd do their dishes while I was visiting with them. I got along really well with older people for some reason.
Well, you think about you mentioned it. We were the oldest kids. We were the experiment.
You were.
I don't know, the pacifier, the Nook Mom, how long did you leave that on the floor for me?
Oh,
I mean,
oh
by
my word.
Kelly, the sixth kid, here, take it. It's good.
Yeah. You started out with the pacifier. It worked really well, so I used it on all the other kids too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, another thing, Terry,
Yeah.
my mom was always rinsing and washing out cloth diapers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
My
yeah.
mom
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Pampers were not, well, they
No,
were probably around, but I never
no.
had them.
They had a diaper pail. And
Uh-huh.
I tried it
Oh.
for a little while with my first one, but you just can't keep up.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, that's why my children had to be trained early because there was another one right behind them. And they have two in diapers and hanging on the clothesline, hanging them out. And in the
yeah.
wintertime, it was really rough because
Yeah,
you'd
I
have
bet
to
it
hang them down.
was.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was 6
Yep.
right away. We were spaced more apart. My brother is 3 years younger than I am, and then
Mm-hmm.
my other brother was 5 years younger than I was. And my mom had a cerebral hemorrhage
Oh,
when she was pregnant with my second brother, and she fell one night, I think getting up to go to the bathroom or something. I was 4 and she was a month overdue with this baby. So an ambulance came, one of those ambulances that looked like Ghostbusters,
Mm.
and took her to the hospital. She was in a coma for a little bit, and they delivered the baby in a coma, and
oh,
my other brother and I got shipped up to Fargo to stay with my aunt, who was a widow, and my grandma had moved up there to help her. So we were up
oh,
there. I don't know if my grandma had moved yet or not, but we were up there for a few weeks. And my mom's mom took the baby home from the hospital and had him for like the first 6 weeks of our life. But my other brother and I, we were on an adventure. We were going to Fargo, and it wasn't even a holiday. And now I think back, that had to be traumatic for my mom, but
Mm.
she
yeah.
persevered and pulled through. Had some issues from the stroke, and still has them. And we pulled through. It's just what you
Oh,
did. You had,
yeah.
family was your nucleus, and you
Mhm.
counted on family. So,
Yeah. Family.
family.
My family helped so much. We
Yeah.
took care of each other's kids a lot. My sisters and brothers, we all had our children at the same time.
Hmm.
Um, and so there was always somebody available to take care of the kids if you wanted to go on a few days vacation or whatever. That's another thing. My mother and father-in-law insisted that we travel with them once in a while.
Okay.
And then we would ship the kids out. They'd always go to the same aunts and uncles, Rick, you knew where you went. And yeah. And so they've always been very close because of that, I think.
Yeah. I was very close to my grandpa and grandma. They lived in South Minneapolis. We lived in Richfield, and
Mm-hmm.
I stayed overnight a lot. And I remember my dad worked over at the Ford Motor Company in the offices. And so he would go by my grandma's on the way home from work every day, and he'd stop to pick me up. And it's like, can I stay one more day? Can I stay
Oh,
one more day? And next day, can I stay one more day? So
oh,
I spent a lot of time over there. My grandma was very loving and adventurous. We'd hike down to Minnehaha Falls and hike through the woods down there, and had a
mhm.
great time.
Oh,
So,
that sounds wonderful.
mhm.
Growing up, the memories of playgrounds like that and parks, just magical. And I think of some of the monkey bars and the metal slides we played on, and they wouldn't allow kids on those anymore. But if we fell and scun our knee, mom would just shake it off, Ricky.
Or
And
chipped
she
a
cleaned,
tooth.
yeah, she
Yeah.
cleaned me up and get back out there. And we
Hmm.
did.
Every
Memories.
Sunday, and not every Sunday, but whenever there was an incident where one of you kids would have to go to the hospital, it was always a Sunday. Always a
Of
Sunday.
course.
I mean, with Randy, it was, he's playing hockey and he catches a puck in the face, and
I saw
it's
that happen, Mom.
Ugh,
oh, you did?
Yeah, I was.
I wasn't home, so Dad and Grandpa Reed had to take him in.
We were with my friend Frankie Zeman. We were at Golden Valley Lions, the outdoor rink there, and Freddie Zeman, Frankie's big brother, took me and Randy and Frankie, and we were skating, and little Randy's buzzing behind the net, and one of the bigger kids took a slap shot, and it went above the net and caught him, and
yeah.
Yeah,
I was
I,
scared for the little guy.
don't
yeah.
you think? And we used to skate outdoors. There weren't indoor skating rinks except for
No,
roller skating. But we were at that warming house and skating every night. They lived up there. It was awesome. It didn't matter if it was, 5 below. We were out there skating, and then you'd come home and your toes would be throbbing because they were so cold. And then your mom would stick them in cold water, and then they'd start itching when you get the feeling back. And
Yeah.
I'd like to still go ice skating, but I'm going to be 70 and I don't want to break a hip if I go down. So I
yeah.
guess I'm done with that. Very favorite pastime for me.
Well, we lived out on Medicine Lake, and so you know where my kids were during the winter.
Yeah.
Everybody would pitch in and shovel the lake off, right, Rick?
Well, we'd shovel not the whole lake, but
No, not the lake, but
sorry,
yeah.
smart ass oldest kid.
Oh,
Sorry, Mom.
yeah.
We'd shovel down Fournier's by their house on the lake.
Yeah. Wait till Bobby Bachman would go down and measure to see how deep the ice was. And Rick, you also had West Medicine Lake Community Club.
Okay, Terry, what that was basically where we played our baseball. It wasn't officially Little League, but it was youth baseball. And we'd play the area grade schools and area communities. And we lived down there too. We always had our bats and our gloves with our bikes, and we were always playing, it seemed like, working at our craft. And I don't see that much anymore. There's too many things for kids to do other than that, I guess.
Yeah. It's definitely when my kids were young in the 80s, they still, I mean, we were running with two or three of them playing baseball or softball, and Dad wouldn't have 15 minutes to relax when he got home from work. It was like, here, eat. He has to be to this field. He has to be to that field. And so we were always running. Saturday morning soccer games with frost on the ground at 8 o'clock. And I believe sports and organized activities are great for kids. And
Mm-hmm.
they still have them, but they don't seem to have them as much. Or maybe
I
I
think
just don't notice. But
it's a lot more specialized now where you'll get somebody like, for example, if it's a hockey is nuts, crazy because the ice times you have to be ready when it's available. And as parents, you spend a lot of your weekends out of towns, and that's other sports too, but I just picked out hockey. So it's a real commitment. And then you don't want to be left behind by not attending the right camp and all that. So you have that in play. It was just different for us growing up, different times. And I just cherish the times that I had. And I can remember riding my bike home from the community club up, which wasn't a far ride, but I observed the nature around me, the grasshoppers, but I'd enjoy the nature and I'd get home as fast as I could, sneak one of my dad's Pepsis, and life was good. Life was
Well,
really good.
your dad was your coach, your baseball coach.
Yeah, I was talking
And
about the off times, but yeah, he was our coach.
take the car seats out so all you ball players could fit in the car. I mean,
Terry, we would get 8 people in the car, maybe 10.
uh,
It was not safe, but that's how we would drive to some games. I can remember that. And
yes.
I remember Piker Merquan would turn the radio station from WCCO, my dad's station, to KDWB or what, and don't touch that. But he did it anyway, and it was kind of a running joke between those two.
Oh,
But
yeah. Uh,
Those were good memories.
we used to stick 10 people in the car when my cousins and aunt and grandma came down from Fargo for a holiday, or we'd go up there. Why not take two cars? No, we would take one car.
Mm.
So that would be interesting. And I just remember one incident where my aunt decided to take the train down at the last minute, which was really a big deal. We love going downtown Minneapolis to the train station. Well, we picked them up in our convertible, and my mom and dad and the three of us kids, we put my grandma and my aunt's three kids in there. So we had 10 people in this convertible Falcon.
So, Mom, also known as Muggs, Terry, what was a fond memory? I'm going to pick a year. See if you can remember. What's the biggest memory from 1969 for you? I was 12 and I have my memory.
I think I started high school then. I started high school in September of 69. So I'm going to say that was probably the thing I remember most.
It's quite a change in your life going to high school.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Muggs, mom, Muggs, mom, come here. Sorry.
What's the memory? Okay, I have a lot of memories. Just the enjoyment of all of you kids in how you entertain me.
Hmm.
Choir? I get emotional.
It's all right, Mom.
The choir, just so many school activities that I just enjoyed watching all of you. The talent that you all had was wonderful. All 6 of you. And the friends, you chose good friends, and that meant a lot to me. You achieved so much. So I've just got good memories all the way around.
Well, you're a great mom. Thank you.
Yeah.
My memory was 1969 when that community club, Terry, we were talking about that had the baseball.
Yeah.
It was a community club where they had a building where we would watch movies, popcorn, soda pop. They'd put on a Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein movie or something like that, some older
Mhm.
movie, and they'd play it. And all us kids were together and they had a parade. They had a king and queen, and they did something every year. It's called a carnival where they bring rides in and throw the hoops on the walking sticks, and they had the cakewalk. It was just fun. And then they'd have softball and baseball tournament. And in 69 it was special because that was a cool thing for us to do, but our astronauts landed on the moon during that
Yes, they
time,
did.
and it was like, oh, how cool is that? And then of course you had Woodstock too a little bit
Of
later, but
course. We were a little
anyway,
young for that, though.
well, if you've seen the Quincy episode, he went to
Yeah.
Woodstock, but I told everybody I went to Woodstock. I was 12. But anyway, 1969 was a pretty cool year. Terry, you went to high school. Your whole world evolved even more.
Yes.
Mom, I'm glad we gave you some good memories. You made a good life, good family. Good stuff came out of this. We were all blessed with relatives. It sounds like Terry, you too, that took care of us. We wanted to be there.
Absolutely.
Just good things. The boomer era, we may be criticized now by the younger people, but I don't care. we we had a pretty good life. I'm just thankful for it.
And Terry, I don't know if Rick has ever mentioned his siblings' names. There was Rick, Randy, Renee, Tim, Mary, and Kelly. And so
Wow.
often when I would call one, I'd call all of them at one time, and they
And
all
it
knew
was
who.
usually the last name she called was the correct one.
Yeah. Well, then you quit. So I know. I get my two sons' names mixed up with my two brothers' names. So sometimes I'm calling Bruce and Brian, and it's like, no, it's Greg and Joe. So yeah, I think everybody does it. My grandma used to do it. She used to call me Donald, and
Oh,
then, or then Ginger, my mom's name, and then finally she got to my name. So
Yeah.
But we all do it now, so we all appreciate it. Rick, I think that this was a fun episode, and hopefully we brought some memories to our listeners. And I hope we can do this again sometime and maybe specialize on a topic or a year like 1972, the music, what was going on, the type of cars that they had, and just there's
Absolutely.
so much information that you can reminisce about. And it's good to reminisce. It's good for
Yeah.
your brain.
I wanted you two to get to know each other better.
Glad we did.
Number one, because you're two of the coolest people I know. And also, I want to mention music is a big deal, part of the Boomer Buddies podcast. And Terry's a star in her own right. But I'd like to bring up your husband, James, now. He was one of the founding members of Gypsy, progressive band that left a great legacy in music. There's a print of James that his fans can get. I know you have a lot of fans that still follow on your Facebook page, and the print is behind me. Those prints are still available, aren't they, Terry?
Yes, they are. There are several still available, and it's a great memory of a great Minnesota legend, just a really good, fantastic person. I know he was certainly good to me, and he was certainly good to you and our other boomer buddy, Joe. He was just a kind person, and it's a nice print because it shows him when he started out in the 60s in Gypsy and how he looked when he passed away last year. This artist, Bruce Peterson's phenomenal. If you're interested in the print, you can contact me at stew854@hotmail.com, and I'll be happy to give you the information on getting one.
Yeah, it's a limited edition print,
Yes, it is.
meaning when they're sold out, they're gone.
Yes,
James loved it. He's got the original, or you have it now.
I
It's
do.
hanging right next to you, I think.
Right there.
Yeah. And he had tears when he received that as a gift from Joe and myself. Like you said, Bruce was the artist. So get a limited edition print from Terry. You can frame it however it matches. I heard you say that before, Terry. That's pretty important. You can frame
Yes,
it the way you want,
yes.
and you'll get a little certificate of authenticity with it. Well, Mom, Muggs, and Terry, this has been so much fun. And I like your idea, Terry. We'll cover many specific topics to follow, I'm sure. So, on behalf of Muggs Reed, Terry Walsh, my name's Rick Reed. Until next time, we'll see you
Around
The block.
If you enjoy this podcast and are viewing on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button on your screen, and share it with your friends, and feel free to comment below. You can also hear us on Spotify and Buzzsprout. Feel free to email comments to myboomerbuddies4@gmail.com.